I couldn't find my hand signals and all that stuff to raise my hand. I went in and there was a whole different setup on it, and it's in the hearts where you tap on the heart and then you pick whatever, raise my hand or whatever. That wasn't there the first meeting. Now it's there.
That makes sense.
I thought, you didn't call them until those rings were bad, right? No. I don't have a wing like that, but a wing that's not, most of the time the wings we get are on.
I think that's lots and lots of.
Oh, is this really rabbit?
Yeah, this is rabbit.
That's the different pizzas.
Who's that?
Uncle Mike only does Gordos.
Oh,
You're like, it's what?
are you sure? I thought he did rabbit
He
the other
does
day.
rabbit. I used to, he does rabbit rolls, it's not.
Yeah, I've never always done Gordos.
Now Mike doesn't like rolls.
I think Gordos is what it's at. Like their wings might not be now that about those wings, but I think Gordos like,
They're like pulled pork pizza. Awesome. Or is that salad?
So I sent her another email, and I stated it very clearly. I told her, I got 1 point from module 1, I can't tell if it's for the discussions that I responded to or the discussion I wrote. I need to be able to tell the difference. Please advise. I guess I'll see if she does. I don't know.
Mom, count some of your salad.
Yeah, don't eat it all, okay? They didn't give me a whole lot, actually. I don't know why. They didn't listen to her give me.
Thought it was weird how fast they put it together.
If you were talking, hang out while we're watching the Zoom on computers, I'm in. Let me know. What is this?
Girl wants a boy.
Apparently it's coming.
That would fuck you up.
What'd she say? What happened? The book just closing?
You still haven't seen
Put a ringtone on.
Reach out and touch
it.
me.
Still that shit from an ancient Egyptian site, by the way, which you probably should do.
Itsy. It's got, what do you call it on it?
I don't know.
Sign of,
Or
Horus. Let's see now.
Uh-oh.
No, that would freak you out.
God, you just saw me, didn't you? You just saw me. You just saw me.
Oh, no.
There. Right? When you put it on me. It's very much. No.
That's how you react.
That is a badass fucking window seat. Damn it. Love it.
That's what you would do. Like,
Would you put it on, take it off?
I would put it on.
Okay. Please. Thank you. Hi. I'm me. I can't be better.
That'd be horrible to hear.
Here it goes. Like, as in, it work, like, no longer are.
I suppose I still can. Just able to. Things that it's just.
Do your dad. But like, how did you come back?
I'm sure. I was at the same station. That's where I got here. And then when I was walking out, I was hit by a car. It was easy. No, I remember. It was easy. Oh. And
Well, that's where that word came
there.
You say words, grand words.
These simple cars were very special. Every day I was hit by it. And then the next thing I know, I'm in my head. Out. And what happened? For me, the car that always didn't take mine. After a while, I figured out that that's wrong. That's right too. She's sick. Two. Young, sad. Two. There's also me. The house comes with me.
You would be pretty fucking salty. If people are like, ghosts are so mean. It's like, dude, probably, I would be a crabby son of a bitch. If I was trapped to
You
a
could sleep
certain
all you
place.
wanted. Nobody would know.
from. Can you? You actually don't know if you can sleep or not.
Yeah, you have no idea if you can sleep in spirit form. You might get to lay there with your fucking eyes shut.
It's thoughts, but.
I think if you're a ghost, you get something that you're probably not gonna be getting to do anything you fucking want.
So did she steal that or did she just find it?
Yeah, she stole it from a museum.
She said she found it.
Right there.
Creative way of saying, I was looking through shit I wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Is that what I listened to?
I'm leaving.
Okay, I'll eat everything back. I had choices.
No, you won't be. You won't be here. Because things are real, obviously I'm hallucinating. So, you won't be here right back. And I will try to get some psychiatrist later. But other than that, it's next week.
We're going to get some consider. You have asked this guys, but you asked me. Seriously, it's not even passive.
Nope. Nope.
I'd have to stay home from school.
West and east
Normal person
at
probably.
3 days. Separated by just a tiny stretch of water. So close, yet each belonging to a different world and time.
So let's they eggs together or things.
What? All right. Well, the freedom have grown. Before I forget, for those of you who are interested, the fall talent show enrollment is now open. So, start practicing. You sing, you dance, there. You cannot bring a live snake on stage. School cannot afford any more lawsuits. It is an act.
Thanks, David. You want to bring me a piece of pizza?
Yeah, I can do that.
What do you got there?
Pepperoni and pineapple and pepperoni and, sausage.
I'll pepperoni and sausage. Please.
Okay. Little one?
That little one. Thank you for knowing. How'd you know?
Yes.
Good.
Ah! Lord,
That's
you're
fine.
still here?
Come on, you may have to see me. I'm happy to see you. Although it's true, I haven't learned to stop very much.
I thought I was hallucinating. I was so relieved that you were here.
That's not pepperoni and sausage.
I was trying to see what.
Oh, you said pepperoni, no, pepperoni, pineapple,
Such a big hoopla.
pineapple and sausage, sorry.
Fine, you're real. I get it.
Pineapple.
You can't ask.
I tried.
If we're both feeling better,
It's like the right word.
share is probably the least thing you should say that you would. We don't want to our business and have to go more diseases, just like before I found this super.
It's all privacy.
So what?
Things are.
Okay, wait. It's called privacy.
In the market for dead drugs.
Oh, check after. Nothing.
Great. Well, it was nice to know.
You'd feel like shit. You would feel like such a massive pile of shit. And I think that's what this is gonna be at. I would be a dick to him. No, she's gonna move shit.
What are you doing? What was this bloody one?
Seriously.
Is she again with that?
No, she's a pop star.
Pop star?
A famous musician.
She's a musician?
All of these posters are musicians. So, what do you do?
Music is my life, so to speak. Both my musicians, and basically grew up in the central. I saw a guitar back. Do you like?
Not anymore.
Uh-huh.
He's, well, can't we stop moving these around and he's always weird and that.
No. Fuck off.
So, thanks. What?
Energy talking, you remember last night? I used to go on school.
Yeah, that's, with us, new friends.
Do you know the song?
High blood pressure. It's all so
Since when are you so worried about my blood pressure? Oh.
Don't.
I know that.
No, that's not what's up. It's the same. We're fine. Good. Have salt. Have as much salt as you want.
And it's on.
Overreacts too much.
I don't think I would have screamed if I had seen it floating, honestly. After I had known the ghost. It's just bait.
Did you, put the cherries in the?
I know it was. But I was trying to help her on
That's
myself.
not really okay. That's all right. But you need someone. And I need it. We have been for so when I'm around, we hang out and chill. But I'm not, she's.
No idea, hang out and check. Wait. What do you mean such a-
We did say that. Guy. I think we should do that. I'm always.
Wait, you would know you're old. When it comes in, Cummings and Noise.
You have no idea how time feels like it's passing through. Especially if you can't talk to him.
Hold on, let's see what she says.
Want to do this in the past 100 years?
Yes, you have to tell me after. I mean, it's not like I can exactly go out and see things myself, so I trapped you, remember? Okay, go.
Come on. Come on. Yeah.
So with the name,
I'm out. I'm out of the house.
Wait, how?
I don't know. It must be the rain. I'm not trapped by the house. I'm trapped by that thing on your finger. Where are the windows I can go? Oh my God, fresh air. I've seen this fresh. I've never been in it, but still, this is exciting. Oh, I can go
I'm
everywhere.
assuming it's fresh.
I can see everything. You have to take me
Where?
everywhere.
There's a lot of places.
No, I don't want to hear this, sir. Look, I know you don't like me very much because I'm a ghost, which okay, fair enough, but I don't care. You're just going to have to suck it up and take me places. Because I've been trapped inside this whole time. I need you to.
Hey. I'll take you everywhere you go. Jill,
He's your
I
next.
still don't know what that word means. But thanks.
so,
What would you say it means we left?
He's probably having fun.
Is it a douche pickle?
Have we got the-
What are you doing?
just take a selfie.
What does that mean?
Take a picture and take it yourself.
He's coming so fast. What is that?
It's a drum.
A drum.
Yeah,
Is he controlling me?
yeah, but it's his hands. Oh, you want some?
There. I miss you.
It's so good.
Everything.
You
So
did.
the water. The waters.
In the 30s, big band swing came around, right? And then in the 40s, it was basically the same people from those bands, but by themselves. That's actually when Frank Sinatra got really big.
Are you?
It's not.
See? I'm sweating off and stuff this talk. Show me this.
Or just become really good friends.
I had a massive crush on Peyton List when she was younger.
Isn't that the girl from,
Cobra Kai and Jesse, she's from tough shit.
You feel like
are you
you're
proud of
talking
me on
about
that?
I never
That's nice.
You were like this, oh, fuck, I gotta do it now. Fucking Zoom! You guys know the lead? Oh, yeah.
Let's have no sauce.
That's chicken. I just want chicken too. I didn't know about
You're so weird.
Ray Charles.
You're anti-sauce, man.
And then you get to clean the kitchen now.
Oh,
Or what?
Or you don't love me.
Diego is so cool.
Cool.
He's
Good. Recognition. Make love with me. No.
Look at this. They're everywhere. Oh, not that one.
What?
It was shining magic and everyone's
Oh, street lights?
Thanks.
You totally.
I'm calm. How many cold patterns are there? I mean, Amelia Earhart has Thomas Ellen.
Exactly. You totally could live like really ever. I mean, it's a little more careful.
What happened to Amelia Earhart?
Yeah. We're old and happy and surrounded by.
Ever?
You just lied.
Dutch?
I know, girls, go, I, go to bed, I gotta go to bed, I have school tomorrow.
What if you took me with you?
To school? No. No.
Come on, why not? I went to Spectral Valley High too. I want to see what the school is like in the future.
It's one thing to bring a ghost around town, but high school is haunted enough without an actual haunted one. So, no.
Please. Please, 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 please,
Look,
please.
there's literally nothing to say about
It's incredible. I mean, it looks exactly the same as what I wear. Except for the people. People, very different. You know, I saw a girl with great hair before. Do you suppose she's okay? Wait, are they supposed to be ghosts? Oh, honey.
Oh my god!
You like it?
Lydia?
Who else?
What the hell are you supposed to be? A materialized panic attack?
I'm a Wendigo.
Well, whatever it is, it's horrifying.
Thank you. Why'd you wear a costume?
Oh, I am. I'm a 17-year-old boy who doesn't like to wear costumes.
You're nailing it. Are you doing anything for the talent show? I was gonna put my name down. I came up with this new apparatus that can detect vampiric activities after dark. And show people that I don't think my peers are ready for that. Yeah, you know, I don't know how to feel about these kids dressed as ghosts, but I think I'm thank you. Who's this canceled Sam?
Well,
Is she your girlfriend?
oh, sorry, what? No.
Yo, he's a killer actor. Did you see that?
Wait, is she?
He said what to the side and then looked back at her like he's still talking to the real chick.
Whoa, I'm getting the weirdest vibe from you right now. You're from right around here. Okay, that's on top.
It's probably nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Oh, what is that? Can I see it?
Oh, it's just a ring. It's a regular old ring. I found it at my house like a little beginning. So,
Here.
yeah, no, nothing weird going on here. I'm just a very normal guy that normal things happen to. Anyways, is there anything else you want to talk about video? Because if not, I'm just gonna get on with that thing to you. No, cool. Alright, I will see you later.
Her finger broke.
Did you take my pinky with you?
And I'm going you really got you out.
She had to go back home.
No, we took her off the building. She'd be stuck in school. Does he not realize he could be the world's greatest magician right now, though? That's what I would do, dude. He's the greatest magician of all fucking time. Oh, let's see.
Cars.
It is a team of the string if I can hear it.
Oh, she looked up the name.
I knew I'd seen it before somewhere. Thinking there's the babe. Score. Wait, what?
Well, that don't sound so great.
He didn't separate him. She died of violent death right after she got hit by a diesel.
Shit.
What was that called? A what? A cold water.
That is your.
Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, smell out.
Yes.
Okay, I go, I got this.
Can I ask you something? Why did you think the time was so much? How do you feel about it?
Just, I'm clear. What's that?
Mr. Pat, did you have that?
You know how these people say one other, right? My dad would go from Havarti to Santana to Bossa Nova to Public Enemy in one night. He just, he was on. It was like,
What happened?
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I watched a pretty brutal video on about a heart attack last night. Eddie Guerrero, WWE guy, literally mid-match, and all of a sudden he just stops monologuing and staring off at his phone for a second and falls over.
Okay.
Middle of like 20,000 fans.
Must be there watching this movie. They're always talking, get it, forever now. So, my friends, my family, my whole life. Sometimes I wish I could just go back.
So it's exactly 7 o'clock and we're going to start. And I just want to thank all of you who have actually done a really great job on Module 1 and even when things were incomplete, you went back and did a great job. So I just want to thank each of you. The reason I focus on Module 1 is by April 15th, I think there's about 50 people who haven't even started it. So that's a big concern. And the reason it's a concern is a challenge for me. You know, just like all of you, this is, one thing that I do. I do the interpreter course, and then there are 5 other domains, other courses that I work on to try to support professional learning related to the TESOL domains, which the ESL endorsement is based on. So, it's really important to take your time and do it thoroughly. I'm going to, and I want to thank whoever it was who pointed out something to me about trying to find the IEP vocabulary. And I actually put it in the announcements. So when I do announcements, you should actually you should go to the announcements and see what the announcements are, which would be good. And I also put it in the revised syllabus. So we're going to actually start pretty quickly. And the reason is that we have, I'd like to do at least 3 or 4 standards, and then, and we're going to go through them. We're going to wait until the end to have, to actually have questions, because I can't really, look at the chat and then be present with you and, all of that. And that doesn't really help the going through, because this is our 4th session. On April 2nd, it will be the 5th session. It'll be the last one on Zoom. So, and remember, the goal of the Zoom is to actually listen to people and find out things. And I'll stay on after, like when we end at 8, I'll end the recording. And if you have other questions that are more personal to you, you can ask me. And if Bev is on, I'm not sure if she is or not, but if she's here, she can also answer. And the other thing is, I have no control over funding, just so you know. I mean, who knows? I might not even have a job next year because of federal freezes on funding for federal programs. So, in all the schools that end up getting federal funds, you might not get any. So that's why this course is so important, because then how are we responding to the needs of families who aren't native English speakers, and the children that we're supporting. So I'm going to actually share and I'm hoping you can see it. I think you can. Yes, okay, thanks. Again, just to go over this, when you successfully complete the course and you have a certificate, you can register in the Midas Cohort 2025 if you have a Cactus number. And I don't know, most educators have a Cactus number, and they can actually get Midas credit, which is the kind of credit that supports, for some districts, they use those credits for lane change and things like that. So if you're an educator, you can actually, after you finish the course, and I'll send it out at kind of at the end of June, and we hope we have all the certificates done so that you can register for the course, and then we can give you credit. So it would be 2 credits, and it ends up being lots of licensure points. In the revised syllabus, I keep putting things in there because things keep coming up, which I'm really happy for. I'm happy that you're willing to respond. And if you have issues or concerns or questions, that you ask me. And it's, it's important to actually get feedback so you can better understand what's happening with the learners. I mean, that's what should be happening in every classroom. And even in the syllabus, I revised it again, and I'll send it out a little bit later. I put it in the announcement for the special education terms. And this is actually the Utah Parent Center at USBE. And it has a button underneath that you can translate it into Spanish or, what other languages that you need. So it can be translated. You don't have to do the translation. You can just press the button underneath the actual link toward all the special education terms, and that should help you, I think. Again, we're just going to look at the next standards, and I'll just review briefly the standards that we did last Wednesday. And again, when we have like 200 people registered, but there's only, and most people in the course are doing really well, which makes us really supportive and valued. Everyone who's doing the course and their commitment to their learning is just, really impressive. The midpoint is April 15th, and that's an easy one to remember because, usually taxes are due. And again, the reason the course is being completed on June 30th is that we don't really know. We're trying to figure out how we can deal with issues related to the end of the Department of Education and funding freezes and all of that. So, we just want to make sure that you end up getting your certificate and you finish the course. That's why I'm going to keep reminding you. I ended up emailing 50 people about, are you going to drop the course? Remember that April 15th, you have to at least make sure that you're doing module 1, which is complete. And, I got some very nice responses from people that I had emailed individually. So, and last week I was busy at Box Elder visiting schools. And so, that makes a difference in the amount of time that I actually have to work on the different courses that I'm facilitating. People keep asking this question, and so I decided to put it in here. Again, there are no grades, just credit. The reason there are no grades is we have certain assumptions about what an A is, or what a B is, or what a C is. And that's really not the future of education. The future of education is, are you doing something thoroughly and completely? And if you're getting credit for it, and the discussion posts, usually I assign 1 point to it, even though it's complete. And that's in each module after in the discussion points when you're actually responding to the prompt and you're responding to 2 other people. And the way, you've started to respond to other people is, very, very open-hearted and generous and thoughtful. And so, that's what creates a learning community, is that when we learn about other people and we understand them better in the situation that they're in, then we have more, empathy and compassion for the work that we're trying to do. And so at the end of the course, when it says complete, you'll have 10 complete modules, 10, and 1 point for each, 10 points. It's not connected to a grade or a percentage or anything like that. And so at the end, there'll be a final self-assessment in an essay. And last year, cohort 2024, there were 52, I think, that wrote a wonderful self-assessment based on the standards that they feel strongly about and feel confident in why, and the standards that they want to work on and why, and what's their plan for doing that. So, the whole goal is really to help people think about their actual practice as an interpreter and what they've been doing. And there's nobody, and now that you know what the standards are asking you to do, what you want to work on and what you feel strong on, right? So that's the point of a self-assessment. It's not about getting a grade, right? It's about creating a way in which the learner can better understand who they are as a learner. So just to be very clear about that. Okay, so we've gone over, and people continually ask me about HB 302 and the language access policy. I did tell you that Colorado is interested. I think they might have taken this legislation and submitted it this last year, but they did a variation of it. So we're pretty lucky that we had someone like Dan Johnson and Thurman, the senator, put something together that really supports family and families' involvement in their students' education. And we should be proud of that. Okay, so again, there are 46 objectives under 8 standards, and then they have ethical principles, and we talked about what an ethical principle is. I don't like to call it a moral principle because it's not really a moral principle, but it's the idea of, based on being a human being and being concerned about other people, these are basic principles that an interpreter would know and in their practice would understand and try to, with a sense of integrity, implement. So the first standard we talked about, I'm just going to give a brief overview, was accuracy and fidelity, and then really preserving the message from one person to another. The next standard that we went over was confidentiality. This is a big one, obviously, because especially if you're a Spanish speaker and you're a teacher, you have to be really careful if you're doing interpretation because you can't be talking to people in the faculty room or other people about, what actually happened in that meeting. So this idea of confidentiality, and there's even a federal law, I think we still have federal laws, of FERPA, which is about privacy, right? And so that's really connected to this idea of not disclosing and treating all information as confidential, right? Whether it's written or it's uttered or what people say in the meeting. So this piece is really, really an important one. Then the third standard we went over last week was, which really got lots of comments from everybody, which was, a wonderful experience to hear about what people are experiencing, because that's why we have live Zoom sessions, so that we can actually learn from and with each other. And this was impartiality, which goes back to this idea of any kind of bias or preference in favor of someone. If you know a student in particular, especially if you're maybe a paraprofessional and you work with a student and you do interventions. And the question is, and again, this goes back to this idea of the interpreter has to decline to be an interpreter if there is a personal relationship with any party or perceived to some kind of impact on, the impartiality of the interpreter and what the interpreter is actually communicating word for word by from the educator to the family. So we talked a lot about that standard. And I really recommend that you look at every single section, every single objective under the communication not hindered by bias or preference of the interpreter. And if you feel like you can't, in conscience, there's a conflict of interest, then, you do that ahead of time with the administrator and say, I feel like my relationship with the family, there's a conflict of interest because I know them very well and I know things, about their background, which might impede my ability to translate in a way directly what you're saying. Okay, so now we're going to go to the new one. This standard is standard 4, and it's in module 6. It's respect for persons. And the ethical principle is that interpreters demonstrate respect toward all parties involved in the interpreted encounter. And what does that look like? So you demonstrate an acknowledgement of the dignity of each party in the meeting, right? So this respect is really important. And, I work on this because I'm not really good at it. Sometimes when I'm in meetings and people will say, things that have, it could possibly have a detrimental effect on students and their educators or their teachers or their district people or their principals or their counselors or their instructional coaches, for me, it ends up to be a little frustrating. So I work really hard on ensuring that the way in which I think and support each person in the encounter that I have with them, that I respect where, their actual experiences and where they're coming from, and the way in which personal choice is never interfered with. So we'll talk about that a little bit later after we go through a couple more standards. This one seems fairly obvious because respect for persons is something as a human being, is valuable. Like even if you have a family dinner and you have relatives coming over and they have different viewpoints than you do, sometimes it ends up not being a very comfortable dinner. Whatever the celebration is that you're having and you're inviting, other people together, whether it's in the neighborhood or in the community or with family. The next standard is, I think this is again, like impartiality, it's a challenging one. It's maintaining role boundaries. And we got into this, I think, the second week when people were talking about who's accountable. Okay, what you're accountable for are these standards and growing as a professional, understanding these standards and implementing them in your behavior. Your role is not to be accountable for what educators are responsible for, what school administrators are obligated to do based on, the role that they have, whether they're a principal or a teacher or a counselor, whoever it is. So again, it's really becoming a professional within your role, which means that you refrain from personal involvement. And again, it goes back to this idea of, if you're doing interventions or whatever, and you know a particular student, or you're familiar with the family and they live in the neighborhood, it goes back to this idea that when you're interpreting, your role is the interpreter. It's not to be an advocate. It's not to be a personal friend. And again, this goes back to professional integrity. So when it says exposure to liability, maintenance of emotional well-being and physical safety of the interpreter, it means that you're very careful to maintain your emotional well-being. Because if you're not emotionally stable, and there's nothing wrong with emotions, but being an interpreter is not the place for you to show emotions when you miss the opportunity to be, and I'm not going to say more objective, but to be more professional in relationship to what is being communicated from the educational perspective to the family. And again, to enable communication, who speak on their own behalf and make their own decisions. So the communication is between the parties involved. It's not related to you, right? I mean, that's the piece that's really important. And again, the interpreter does not advocate on behalf of any party. So this might seem like an obvious thing, but if a parent doesn't understand something, you communicate to the the education person and say, can you say this in a different way to help the parent better understand what you mean? See, because it's really the responsibility of the educator to create the kind of environment in which they're clearly understood. I mean, that's actually not only a state law, but it's a federal law. You communicate meaningfully in a language that the family understands, right? Again, the interpreter doesn't enter into discussion. You don't give advice. Personal opinions, the interpreter, you're not supposed to, yeah, you have personal opinions, but that's not your role. And the matter of the encounter or show reactions to any party. Now, reactions, are things like nonverbal expressions, rolling your eyes, making sounds with your nose, shaking your head, shaking your head in approval or shaking it this way as if, the interpreter is making decisions about what's right or wrong for the parent, or when an educator speaks and you don't agree. If an educator is saying something and you don't agree with it, it has nothing to do with your disagreement. It's what the educator is saying, even if you don't like it. Now, I know this is a challenge for most of us, right? You don't filter communication. You don't speak on behalf of somebody. You don't mediate any conflict when people get upset. You know, all those things are the obligation of the person who called the meeting, whether it's special ed team or a teacher or an administrator, whatever. Again, the interpreter avoids unnecessary contact with the parties prior to the encounter. The interpreter may initiate contact to ensure understanding of the language or to confirm details of an appointment, to convey any information about the encounter needed by the non-English speaker. And I think this goes back to kind of what Bev was saying about finding out information in a way to better prepare for your you being an interpreter. It does not mean getting into the lives of the families, because in the first place, they have a right to privacy. That's number one. Number two, any kind of perception of invading the privacy of a family, especially related to the times that we're living in, and or the immigration status of the parent, is obviously against the law. And so again, this whole idea of FERPA or confidentiality is really critical. And again, it just keeps on saying the same thing. You do not perform services other than interpretation. You're the interpreter, you interpret, and it's the least obtrusive. So it means that you're not the center of attention, right? The mode of interpretation is supposed to be you removing yourself and then you're interpreting, but the eyes are on the person who's actually the one in charge. Same thing with the interpreter and the family, right? You're not mediating any of that. You're protecting your privacy and your well-being and your safety. And by safety, we actually mean that you don't get involved emotionally. I mean, it does not, these are really volatile times. And so your well-being as an interpreter is really important. If you're not taking care of your well-being, right, then you can't really provide the service for families and children that we want. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the next standard, and then we can open up to questions and comments. So the next standard is accountability. And people have brought this up before, which I think is, I really value the fact that from your own experiences, you're actually thinking about these really important ethical principles in relationship to being accountable for maintaining your boundaries and the role that you're actually being trained to do. So, ethical principle. So, and again, I think this came up last week about differences in dialects and Spanish from some countries and stuff like that. The biggest thing is to not get caught up in that for lots of reasons. We don't need to emphasize how different our Spanish is from the person who comes from Mexico or Uruguay or wherever, and so your responsibility is for quality interpretation, and the organization, which is the school district usually, and all other parties for providing quality interpretation, which means, if there's some misunderstanding and that either the educator or the parent needs a clarification, then you have to say to either the parent or the educator, this is not clear for the parent. The parent is saying this, but they don't really understand. And even in the beginning, if you establish a way that when you do the introduction, and Bev and I will work on a toolkit, so this will help you, so that the administrator knows that you're the one, you're not accountable for providing the meaning for what the educator is saying, right? I actually ended up hearing, and I said this last week, from an administrative team that said, it makes them really nervous when someone's interpreting and they actually know that it's not word for word, and it ends up being something very brief or something that's so extensive that it's an explanation instead of being an interpretation. And it's just a matter of practice and being really conscientious. So it's not like everybody is going to do everything perfectly, and it would be good at the end, if after the parents left, ask the person who's called the meeting, how did you feel the interpretation went? So you can get feedback as well. Okay, so here are the objectives. So the objective is about quality of work, maintaining your role, maintaining your boundary as an interpreter, knowing the standards, adherence to laws and standards. Adherence to laws would obviously be HB 302 because that's what we're trying to implement, right? We're implementing state law. Well, we're also implementing federal law, but it's much easier for us to talk about state law. It says the interpreter identifies and corrects interpretation errors as soon as possible. Okay, so this is, again, a challenge, because if you're interpreting and the parent doesn't understand your Spanish, then you have to find out what's like the missing link for them. And again, and this is a challenge for everybody, the interpreter, if it requires knowledge or skills beyond your competence, beyond what you feel you're competent doing, you have to actually just say, I don't feel comfortable doing this, because I think, whatever the reasoning is, whether it's a relationship with the family, the parent, the student, the neighborhood, the community, whatever it is, or whether you have a concern about the Spanish from your country and Spanish that the person is using from another country. You have to be really clear about this. So again, the interpreter informs the parties immediately and requests direction during the encounter if it becomes apparent to the interpreter that expertise beyond his or her competence is required. So don't wait until, there's all this confusion between the family or the person that they're interpreting for and the administrator. If there are serious issues that come up based on your own, expertise or lack of expertise, but you have to determine that. You just can't kind of go along with it. And again, you maintain the limit and obligations. You take steps to make sure that each party understands what is being communicated, not by, adding additional things to interpret the meaning from the administrator or from the family. You just have to make sure that what's being communicated from the person who's leading the meeting to the family and the family back is exactly what is being communicated. You can't be, interpreting it or, making additional comments. You can ask if they need more clarification, right? And then you communicate that to the administrator or to the family. And this is pretty, obvious. You conduct yourself in compliance with legislative requirements and, the standards of the profession. So now you're learning all the standards. We went over the legislation, which is really important. And sometimes, there are districts as well as administrators who actually aren't really familiar with the legislation, even though every single district, every single charter school has to have a board-approved language access policy. And I'll actually put in the announcement next week, the model policy from USBE, so you can see what the policy looks like. It's just a model policy because every district has their policy, but it has to include certain things in the legislation so that people understand it's the right of families to actually have, quality communication about educational opportunities for their student. And again, the interpreter is transparent. When clarification is necessary, the interpreter says, I, the interpreter, need clarification on, when you're talking to either the parent or to the educator. Right? Because you have to be, you have to be clear when you're interpreting. So if you're not understanding what, the administrator is saying, you have to say, I need clarification to communicate effectively to the parent what you mean. And again, the interpreter brings to the attention of an appropriate person any circumstances or condition that impedes full compliance with any standard in this document of standards. And again, it goes back to this thing about conflict of interest, interpreter fatigue. Now, when I'm saying interpreter fatigue, when somebody grabs you as you're walking out the door, to go home, you can actually say, I don't think I can be really clear. I'm really tired from the day. And, besides the fact that many districts have to have access to other interpreters, phone interpreters. They have funds for this, which is really, it's state funds. It can't be federal funds. It's state funds. Inability to hear or inadequate knowledge of specialized terminology. Well, it's clear to me that many of you have already been involved in special education IEPs, right? So that kind of specialized knowledge
Sí. A
and
Yanela falta. Yanela, vamos a cenar, mamita.
and terminology is really important. And if an assignment, under certain conditions doesn't really follow compliance to the standards, then, and there are all kinds of ways that you can talk to people so that they're not offended or defensive. I think that's the skill that we all need. When someone is saying something and they expect you to behave in a certain way that's actually against the standards, then, the way you say these things to them will help them better understand the expectations that are necessary for interpretation meetings, for interpreters, and for, administrators. And again, there are some districts that are actually making all the, requiring administrators and principals and district people to better understand the standards and either take a version of this course or some kind of training that will help them better understand the legislation as well as the standards. So it's not all on you. That's the other piece that has to be really clear. This is the final accountability is really on those who are the educators and the way in which they engage families in challenging meetings, whether it's providing information on, vaccinations or behavior or, organizing an IEP, the final IEP with the final recommendations that should be translated, right? You can't have families, signing things that are in English that they don't understand. That doesn't even make any sense. Nobody would do that if it were a contractual obligation and it was, buying a house and they put it in a different language and you didn't understand it, but they expected you to sign it. So this whole idea about being transparent and being very clear about what the expectations are from a meeting, ends up being a really valuable, important asset and talent that interpreters provide for the educational community. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and then we can open to conversation. So if you want to say anything, just raise your hand. Say, what district you're from. So Jessica Sanchez just raised her hand. Jessica.
Yes, hi. I'm from Weaver School District, and I do have a question. Let's say we're in a meeting and everything just is confusing. What would be for the confusing for maybe both parties? What would be the proper way to say I can't finish this meeting anymore? What
Well,
what what would we say in that case?
Well, I think you wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say I can't finish the meeting. You would actually say, let's look at how the meeting is going. Can we make this
Mhm.
meeting better? Right. And you look
Okay.
to the administrator. What do you need to make this a good meeting with the parent?
Okay.
Okay, that's what I would say. You put it on the educator. That's the piece that's really important.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Heather?
Sorry, I'm learning how to run this system. Okay, I've got two questions. First of all, I hope they're somewhat related. You had mentioned something very slightly just a few minutes ago about translating documents and how districts, people shouldn't sign what they don't have. And it's never happened to me here in Box Elder, but up in Wyoming, again, all my experience, I was expected to, since I was the only Spanish speaker, to translate those documents. And that came out of my prep time, my after school, my every time. And I'm just wondering, and I did it free of charge because they needed it. But I'm wondering, is there like I don't even know how to ask, like an amount of time that you could say, hey, I'm gonna need a little bit of time to do this. I can't get it to you tomorrow. No, we just do it as soon as we can, or just.
Well, no, I'm not concerned about translation because this is
It's not a
nothing to do.
translation course.
It's not translation course.
Okay, so I'll shelf that one. My other one, kind of what you said today, touched on it. One of the later units, we talked about being present when you're interpreting, and it kind of, when you were talking today, it touched a chord with me. And one thing I was thinking when you were talking about, for example, saying, the end of the day and they come to you to translate and you had a rough day and you're tired. I've been pulled, not here in Box Elder again, don't worry, Jeff, but I've been pulled out of classrooms multiple times to go up to the front office and translate for a brand new family who's come, or just they've forgotten about a meeting or whatever. And it's hard to be fully present when you're thinking about your classroom and you've just left 30 kids and you didn't know you were going to be gone. And so an office aide goes down to cover them and you don't have a minute to leave them something. Is that something that you could say, you know what, I'm really sorry, this is not a good time because I have a classroom of kids? Or is that shirking in our duties as a professional interpreter when we might be the only one who can do it? What are your
Okay, well,
thoughts?
it's not my thoughts. I'm just going to tell you what the issue is.
Okay.
The issue is that student instruction comes before everything else, period. Period. So that has to be clear from the district to the principals, period. That's it.
Okay.
You can't interrupt instruction. Quality instruction is a civil rights obligation.
Thank you. It's happened
You're
so many
welcome.
times I can't even count. So thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions or comments? Yeah, you have to make sure I pronounce your
Azucena.
Azucena. Beautiful name.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Regarding what Heather just said, I have been pulled out of my classroom. I am only just an aide, so I'm not a teacher. But I thought it was important to go and help because it's a family that needs help right there and there. And I've just done it, and my boss, the teacher, is always very accommodating and helping others. So I don't know if
Well,
that was wrong or not, but I
No, I mean,
just
if you're,
gone and done it.
well, if you're an aide, that makes a difference, and it's okay with your teacher, and your teacher understands that, and that's kind
Right.
of, what happens at your school to welcome a family, that's fine. The point I'm making is that you can't have someone who is a teacher and has a responsibility for the instruction in a classroom and then is pulled out. Okay, so that's the point.
Okay, and then the next one was just to say that it is great to know that there is a law now. I haven't done interpreting or, these little interpretations that I've done for families or children that need me in the school I work for. It's just being very minimal. But I used to work in the business world, and all the documents that the people signed were in English, and it was not in Spanish. And that was a few years ago. So it's great to have new laws that can address those issues.
Yeah,
And
for
I'm
lots of,
sorry, I forgot to tell you because you asked me about my name, and then I forgot to tell you. Well, my name is Azucena Adams, and I work for the Jordan School District, and I'm a preschool assistant.
Great, thank you. Okay, other questions or comments? Evelyn Cabrera.
Hi, Crystal. Thank you. And hello, everyone. My name is Evelyn Cabrera, and I work for the Davis School District. Now that some of teachers and aides are making this comment, I was a computer lab manager at my local school, and I was doing also interpretations for parent-teacher conferences. But is there a way that the districts, the principals know that they should like I came for an agreement with my principal that from 7:30 or 8 to 9, when my first class will come into the computer lab, I will be available for interpretation. So I was in the office helping with everything that I could, and there was more than one. It was just not me. There was other two people that could do it. So we tried to combine, but we work very, very good with the principal that we had. When the principal retired and a new one came, everything changed. I was asked to choose between being a computer lab manager or an interpreter. So it was hard, because we as an interpreters, we don't know. Like you said, you shouldn't be taking a teacher out of the class. That's I'm finding out this now. If I knew that 5 years ago, I could still be the computer lab manager and the interpreter at my local school. But it's hard when you don't know where to find the information, maybe for interpreters, or make them available to the principal so they know how can they put the budget, fix the budget so they can have that help.
Well, I'm just going to say that's the responsibility of the district, period.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm a big believer in the district being accountable for the way in which resources are used, so that academic achievement for all students is a priority. If we want our students to be successful, then we can't interrupt instruction. And so the priority ends up being, how are districts allocating funds to the schools? And how are they supporting principals in better adjusting the way in which resources are used so that instruction is the priority, period. So Sandra has her hand up. Evelyn, do you still want to, your hand is still up? I've got it. I lowered your hand. Don't worry about it. Sandra.
Hi, how are you? I have a question. When I'm like providing these translation services and one of the parties start asking questions that I know that are against the law, such as the immigration status or something like that, should I just continue translating even though it is against the law, or do I have to say something?
Well, you mean an educator is asking for immigration status?
Yeah.
Okay, that's like a
Yeah,
that's
something that I know that is against the law. Mhm.
well, it's a serious violation. I mean, I think the question ends up being, how can you have a private conversation with this administrator? Are you talking about an administrator at a school?
No, it's just a question. I have never been in this situation, but it's
Oh,
just a question. Yeah. No. I have never been in this situation.
well, then let's not talk about hypotheticals. Let's talk about things that really happened. Okay?
Okay.
Trent.
Hi, I'm Trent Jackson from the Kane County School District, way down here in Kanab. You're all welcome to come and visit sometime.
Oh, I love Kane. Do you know that a friend of mine who's a professor at Stanford actually asked me to marry her at Best Friends in Kanab.
Oh, is
So
that
I
right?
actually, yeah, so I spent, because I love Kanab anyway, but it was this great opportunity to go to Best Friends and marry these two wonderful people.
Oh, that's wonderful. I was just up there performing a wedding myself, but
Oh,
anyway, I digress. I've just been asked recently by the school district to help. I teach English classes here in town, and I was really surprised to find out that in the Kane County School District that there are 27 students that do not speak English, and I had no idea that was the case. But in reviewing this, one of the standards earlier tonight on the call, it crossed my mind that there's one particular country in South America where it is very difficult for me to understand their Spanish. They cut vowels, and I think I see people nodding. It starts with a V, but anyway. So in that case, would it ever be appropriate, because they're there at the appointed time, and to be able to explain to them, hey, you just slow down, enunciate, and we'll do just fine. But I'm having a hard time understanding you.
yeah, the best thing is to start the other way, is to say, my Spanish is very different from yours. And, I really respect the fact that that your Spanish is different. And so it would help me if you just spoke more slowly and more clearly,
Excellent.
right?
Thank you.
So do it kind of the opposite way. I mean, you know what I mean? So that they don't feel,
Right.
like insulted or whatever.
Yeah.
Great question. Wait, and do you know Elizabeth, what is her name? Platt? She took the course, she's in Kane, and she took the course um, she has like three names together. Anyway, she took the course uh, last year in in cohort 2024. And so I've been working with, Kane, and I'm trying to get them to, and they can, and you can do this with, the other, and I'll mention it to the people in Kane. If you have two or three of you and you wanted to actually offer this course and certify your own interpreters, you guys could at Kane. You could do it yourself. Wouldn't be USBE. It would be, Kane certified interpreters course based on the law. And I think it would really be a benefit, because most people don't really understand, just in general, they don't really understand the complexity of rural Utah. They think has nothing to do with diversity, which is really, And I don't mean diversity in that kind of way. What I mean is, language differences. And so I think the fact that Kane could be a really great example for other rural districts like Vernal and Uinta and places like that would be really great. So think about it.
Sure, I'll talk to the person that got me involved and had me sign up for this course. I'll talk to her.
Good, good. Okay, great. Thanks, Trent. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Other questions? We have about 9 more minutes, and if we don't have any more questions, then, I'm fine with not hanging on. So is someone talking? Because I don't. Okay. So so can you unmute and then just ask your question? I see your hand. Okay, you're still muted. There we go. Oh, but for some strange reason, we can't hear you. Even though you've unmuted yourself. Okay,
You hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. So no, just I want to say that I know how Trent is feeling, how Trent is Rocio from Ogden School District, Rocio Núñez. So because actually we are going to the same situation, in our district, and even in my church, we have a lot of people coming from other countries, Latinos. And so, and for us, it's really difficult to understand them too, because they speak really, really fast. And I cannot imagine how you might feel, because you are doing amazing. I don't know your job. I cannot, it's not judging, but you are doing an amazing thing in translating, doing the other way, and trying to understand, because you don't understand the language or you understand the language, but not completely to the point to understand them. So really, really, that is awesome of your work. Awesome. I'm sorry to say these things in in the blog, but actually I need to say, because not everybody dares to do what you are doing. If you notice, what I am seeing over here, we are several of us are actually Latinos or speak Spanish, but I don't know, but you speak English, so thank you. Thank you for doing that. And thank you to you, Grisel, too.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I think I'm going to end now, unless someone else has something to say. But I think you should all be, we have 65 on the Zoom. Last time we had 80. We have one more session. And I think you should feel like incredibly proud of yourselves. This is really important. There's no other state in the entire country that is doing what we're doing. None. And they don't have the kind of legislation that Utah has passed. And we have, Dan Johnson and Thatcher to, and it passed unanimously. When something passes unanimously through the Senate and through the House and through the full legislature, you actually know that the way in which Utah values, linguistic diversity, because, we have 165 languages. It's not just Spanish. Spanish is the dominant one. But we have someone who's taking the course, and, she's in San Juan or Washington County, and she's Navajo. And you realize that most people, the respect that we have for Navajo code talkers in World War II is something that we should be proud of. And, that Utah has always, been a place where all you have to do is look at the course catalogs, and you can see all these different languages from our tribes. where students can get credit for their first language, which is their tribal language, and we should be proud of that. You know, there are other places where that doesn't happen. And so the fact that you're committed to interpreting and making a difference for every child in Utah with the rich assets that they bring with their language and their culture, you know, is an honorable thing. Someone wrote, "Hi, all, just wondering if the link for last week's Zoom meeting is up." I actually sent out the Zoom link last, like right after. So if you want to email me and say that you didn't get it, then, because it ends up being really complicated, because after it's recorded, then it gets downloaded in the cloud, and then our IT people actually do adjustments, and they upload it, but they send me the link, and then I send it out to you. So if you didn't get it, then you need to email me. Okay, any
Hi.
other?
Good afternoon. I couldn't find the hand raised,
That's
but
all right.
I have a comment. You know, I really appreciate all this information. By the way, my name's Laura Colleen, and I work for Davis District. And this has been really, really helpful to me because when I did my first AIP meeting, I'm like, wait a minute, I think I'm doing it wrong. I was nervous. And like everyone else is saying, there is like different, you know, we have people, of course, that, you know, our language is not the same. Sometimes we say something incorrectly that it means totally the opposite. And they're like, oh, so I personally, I used to work for a medical doctor before, and I've dealt with different kind of cultures and stuff like that. So I kind of learned the meanings of different words. And also if I don't know something, I try to Google like a dictionary, how to say words different from, because I'm from Mexico, and of course Mexico and let's say Peru or Argentina or any other place, there's words that are totally different, totally different. And sometimes when I say something, they look at me like, huh? So I tried like the best I could to try to translate how they would understand it. And it is kind of complicated, but you know what? I'm loving this. I'm looking at all your videos and I'm like, oh, now I know what I'm doing wrong. Oh, I'm gonna try to correct it. I take notes. I love taking notes. But you know, I just want to thank you and everyone because this is amazing. I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I know all of you guys, just like me, we're trying our best. But hey, for me to help out there, it makes me feel happy. And it's just, I love helping my community. And that makes me feel wonderful. Just looking at them, knowing that there's people out there that they could trust. And that's why I'm doing it. From the bottom of my heart, I'm doing it because of that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks. Thanks, Laura. And I think that goes back to this idea that, you know, if we're always learning together, you know, that's what life is about. We're always learning together. We're learning with each other. We're learning from each other, and we're doing the best we can. And so that ends up being, you know, really important in relationship to, you know, how we are committed to becoming more and more professional. And so someone is writing, you know, I value Trent's opinion about the important to understand if one, you know, if something is going fast and you don't, and, you know, it's a challenge because it ends up being too quick. But again, you know, this shows how committed we are to people when we actually say to them, you know, I'm not understanding, you know, as well as I can. And, you know, so I don't know what's happening here. So Emmeline, you actually have your hand up. So this is the last question or comment.
Yes, hi, I am from a charter, and I actually just had a quick question about the modules. You spoke really quickly on it about the point system. And so I was just wondering, I'm currently on module 2 and there is no way to reply to 2 people on there. Is that one we don't need to reply to 2 people? Or
No,
was I just reading?
well, no, I'll have to go in and check it. And I'll check it and make sure that you can respond to everybody. Okay, so
Okay.
don't worry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because like I said, I'm just on module 2, but I wanted to make sure that I was giving everyone the respect that they deserve by replying to them, and I have been unable to, so I didn't know there was like an at situation where I'm just supposed to fill in
No,
someone's name.
no. It might be something with the way in which it's set up because you have to actually click on things. So I'll just go back and review it. So don't worry about it. Let me take care
Okay,
of it.
thank you so much. I also haven't received any like points or anything like that, so not that I was worried about it until the end, but just wanted to make sure that wasn't on my end.
Well, I've done module 1. I mean, I've done everybody in module 1. So I'll check to make sure that I've responded to you because I've responded to everybody who on module 1 who actually submitted something. Okay,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
You're welcome. Okay, so it's 8:01. And so I'm going to stop. Consuelo, do you have a question? Your hand is up.
Hi, yes, sorry, Grisel. I wanted to ask really quickly because of the question that was previously asked. Something did come to mind really. I'm sorry, I work for under the ESL department at Vista School, which is a charter school here in
Yes,
Southern Utah, yeah. And I was just wondering, overall, how is it exactly if we know if we've submitted 2 comments per or to like yeah, following up with a person's discussion post? How do we make sure that those were completed in time?
Well, there's no on time because it's your own, it's at your own pace.
Right, sorry, not on time, but like that they were actually fully completed because I feel like I've completed more than one. I'm like, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm thinking I did. So, but how do I look if in case I did or didn't?
Okay, I'm gonna stop you for a minute and we're gonna stop the recording because this is a personal question related to that. So I'm
Okay.
gonna stop the recording.